Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Accuracy in America, brought to you by Accuracy in Academia. I'm your host, Don Irvine, joined by my co-host, Brian McNichol.
Good morning. Hello, deplorables, drags, despicables, garbage, chumps, Neanderthals, semi-fascists, maggots, weirdos, and of course those dog-faced pony soldiers.
Okay, so the thought just occurred to me is that with the Biden administration gone, how much of this still applies, or are we just going to?
I'm wondering if we need a new list or a new list. I've been thinking about that for a few weeks now because, they're calling us new names now, or actually they're recycling old names, but. We might want to update.
I will defer to you to send me some suggestions.
I'll look into that and see what we can work out.
We will. Yeah, it's a new era, and they have some other things they want to do to us, and so some of these things pertain to people of the past now. All right. Well, good to see you.
Good to see you. I don't get to see many people. I'm just in my little house, my igloo, avoiding the cold.
Yeah, I know. I go out shopping with my wife, or we go out to eat once in a while, or something like that, or like we just had, kind of family visits in December and January and whatnot. But I am home a lot, much to the consternation of my wife. So.
My wife's like, I love you, but you do need to get lost.
I think that'll there is something to be said for that. We've both been married a fairly long time, but it can kind of stretch the bonds of marriage a little bit. Anyway, look, so weather is. So we're kind of in a deep freeze. We had this snow, ice, and much to my disappointment, we're in this deep freeze because I can't get everything quite melted off the sidewalk and the driveway. If it's mostly clear but not completely clear, I think we're getting some warmer temperatures at the end of the week, so that'll probably help. But down south, and even I guess I don't know if it hit your hometown area, but New Orleans got hit, and a lot of other places got hit with snow that they were not really accustomed to or necessarily ready for.
Oh yeah, like Houston, New Orleans, even way down by the Gulf. I saw video yesterday from Cameron Parish, which is the farthest, the southwest corner of Louisiana. It has beaches. They're not well known, but there are beaches there, and the beaches were covered in snow. Biloxi buried in snow. North Florida, right? Pensacola, the Redneck Riviera buried in snow. There's snow totals that they have never seen. I did see someone sent me, might have been my sister, but someone sent me video from Baton Rouge, and someone in Baton Rouge, two guys. Hey, there we go. That's right, Slidell. Bob had good video up of snow yesterday. Baton Rouge, there were two guys with a snowplow. I think one of them was actually a backhoe. The guy was just using it as a snowplow, but they were actually trying to plow the ruts. So anybody who's from down there will tell you that when it snows down there, what we do is we drink a couple of beers and stay home, right? and wait till it melts. They literally just close the highways. It doesn't happen often enough to justify buying snowplows and maintaining salt and all that kind of stuff. So, not that we don't have plenty of salt down in Louisiana, but yeah, some places like my one cousin is in Morgan City, which Morgan City is so close to the Gulf that the Gulf of America, by the way.
I was going to ask you which Gulf that was.
Yeah, that they build offshore oil rigs there. And they put them on a canal and lay them down flat. It's when we went there when we were kids and watched it, it's unbelievably huge manufacturing operation. So big that they fly around this plant in a helicopter, right? It's that big. And so, and they just take these things down to the Gulf. So she's that close to the Gulf, and I think she got 9 inches yesterday. So, those are big snow farms. Yeah, that's right. 8 inches at New Orleans International. Yeah, that's right. That's 60 years.
That's just amazing.
It really is. And Shreveport did not get any, from what I understand. So, this was another one where you had to be farther south. And I think like south of us, like Wilmington, North Carolina, and Myrtle Beach, they got hammered, right? But nothing here, nothing but bitter cold.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny that Bob chimed in because he came in before I was going to ask you the question of what do you think Bob was facing, because I wasn't sure at the very moment Bob was coming on, and then boom, he comes on with this comment, and I'm like, okay, well that answers my question there. But
Yeah, Bob
I had to,
is just he's on the north side of Lake Pontchartrain from New Orleans. So yeah, they got hammered. My sister lives pretty close to Bob. She sent me a lot of good video of the little kids out playing in it and stuff.
so yeah, so I have a former coworker that has been working for Eberly and Associates for a number of years, and he resides in Florida. He was in Virginia and then moved to Florida many years ago, and he only has to come up, I think, to Virginia like once a month to meet with a specific client, but everything else he can do from Florida. So he was like remote work before anybody even was doing remote work, right? I mean, he was just working from Florida and making the big bucks and whatever. And he sends me this message, which he doesn't send me that many messages. He sends me this message on Facebook about how he was supposed to come up on Wednesday, and he says, I hear you're going to get some snow. I'm like, I don't like the cold and the snow. And so I checked the weather forecast, and I'm like, we're fine. I was just going to be cold as the dickens, but there's no snow that I know of that's going on. And so the then I see this weather report that comes through, and it's showing where it hits. I'm thinking like, yeah, there was snow. It's just not in the area that you were thinking the snow was going to hit.
Yeah, it's not the area he's coming from, not the area he's going to. That's right.
Yeah. So anyway, or yeah, it's just this is bitterly cold, and I don't enjoy being. It's one of those things too. As I get older, I go out there to do a little snow shoveling or whatever, but it has to be in short bursts because it is so cold. I kind of figure even if you bundle up, it's kind of like feel that you've gone through almost going to get frostbite or something like that. It's just really bone chilling cold out there. Even when my wife decided yesterday, she says, let's go and grab sandwich at Mission Barbecue, free birthday sandwich. Gets in the car and she's like, maybe we should stay home and eat pizza.
Yeah.
I'm like, look, it's up to you. I don't really care one way or the other. But we went ahead and did that because she's just like, oh, it's just really cold. So it's one of those things. And it was cold. It was cold enough that it finally killed her car battery. But after 9 years, we knew that this thing was, right towards the end. I had started the car before we left on our last trip to Indiana, and the car turned over, but I could tell we were in trouble. And as soon as I got back, it was like click, 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 click. And I'm like, that's probably the end of it,
Yeah.
and everything like that. So, but at least it's one of those things that happens to me in the driveway. I kind of anticipated it. So,
Yeah.
get the road service, go ahead and get it recharged, go ahead and start, take it, and then go get the battery replaced. And now I'm good to go for a while. So better
Yeah.
than being stuck on the road somewhere
That's true.
involved. So, well, yeah. So weather is weather, whatever. So we went from all the fire stories to a big snow story,
Yeah.
and I guess we're facing a little more of a typical winter now, right? In that
Yeah, a
sense.
little more of a typical winter, but also, looking ahead, it looks like we're getting close to the end.
Yeah.
Like you say, it gets warmer, then it gets colder again, and then after that, beyond that, it looks like it's going to kind of lose its punch. You're already getting much longer days. The sun's out more. You can't tell today. It seems awfully far away today, but it will be. It will be back.
Yeah. All right.
Near the end than the start.
So the weather theoretically at least had an effect on the inauguration on Monday, moving it indoors. Really changed the dynamics of everything like that. Do you think it was all weather related, or were there some other maybe considerations security wise, intelligence?
I think they had a lot of security. They were worried about drones, and a lot of there was speculation that the thing in New Jersey, a couple of months ago about the drones was practicing for this, right? They were trying to see, what will we do if this happened? And I don't think that the Secret Service, Park Service, all the police people involved were ever satisfied that they could secure Trump outdoors there. Right? There's too many variables and so forth. So I think, you could say, well, weather is what made them do it, but I don't think any of the security guys were at all upset when that came down. They make two plans. So they were ready. There was some shuffling around, but they had a plan. They know what to do. This has come up before, and they know to be ready for it.
I guess it kind of makes me glad that I had gone, what was it, 8 years ago, in my one hurrah with Trump in the inauguration, which was kind of a cold, overcast, potentially rainy day, versus this one, which was going to be bitter. It was going to be a lot colder.
Yeah.
And
a lot colder, like 50, 20 degrees colder.
Yeah. And I do feel for people that I know that, when Trump had his rally at the Capital One Arena, they spent a lot of time. It was like a rock concert or like some other Trump rallies in the past. You spend a lot of time waiting, but because of limited, seating or space, not everybody could get in. So I knew at least a couple of people that waited 5 to 7 hours in line and were out of luck, for that. And you probably, maybe some other of your friends as well may have tried to get in there and couldn't get in. So there was no doubt the problem was for the inauguration in a sense, and anything they want to do, plus whatever they were going to do on Monday. I got some email about you can please show up, blah blah blah, to Capital One Arena for the inauguration watch kind of thing. I'm like, after yesterday, nah, I'm not gonna wait hours in line. Doesn't make any sense. I can do something else. That's a lot easier for me than doing that, because I know it's going to be a complete zoo. Trying to do that. I mean, I think it would have been neat, but I'm no special VIP or anything like that. So without special access, chances that I would.
As you were watching it, you were watching it on TV there, just as that you could watch it on TV at home.
Yeah, with a bunch of Republicans, most of whom I had never met before, and everything like that. I thought it was interesting because because you were part of that. You're part of that message group, right? That got the pictures from Dwight, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. And at first I thought, what group is this? It looks like it was started by Charles, and I'm like,
Charles Maranto. That's who I got it from. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, what's going on here? So and I thought, the Dwight, how did this all happen? But anyway, but Dwight arranged this meetup basically. And, he had a pretty decent crowd there. The restaurant, this is one of his favorite pizza places because Dwight is Mr. Pizza. And in essence, took up more than half the restaurant for this event. But they had about 5 televisions set up to do that, and I'm sure they were happy to get the business and everything like that. I drive over there. He says, we'll be there, meet at 11:30. I get there at 11:35. I'm lucky I was getting a parking spot because they also have a very small parking area. So it was good to see the enthusiasm from people there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
I'm also sure that a lot of people, not just the security, the Secret Service and others, they can keep a tighter rein on security, but others didn't have to freeze their buns off in the cold, waiting for all of that, pomp and circumstance and everything else to go through. So a lot of people were spared that whole thing. So I think it was a good decision in the end, and I feel like I feel bad for the people who didn't get into the rally or didn't get into the watch. I feel bad for people who flew into town thinking that they were going to be out there somewhere by the Capitol, with their tickets and doing that, because they had distributed a lot of tickets,
more than 250,000 tickets.
Yeah. So I feel sorry for them, but I think hopefully they all understand that this was for everybody's help, well-being in the long run to go and make this decision. And it was when you can watch it on television, the nice thing is that instead of being like way back like I was in 2017, they're kind of closer up, so you can watch Joe and Kamala and the others sitting behind the Democrats just having to deal with with this.
Eating that sweet sandwich.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It
Yeah,
was
I
just,
admit I enjoyed that part.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, it was an inauguration. Like, no, I probably will remember this more. Part of those will be recency bias, but the it was, with Trump, second term, pretty rare for a president to lose and then come back and win another term. Uh, he has really nothing to lose in this term, and we could see how he was planning to stock his administration with loyalists, and people that were going to do what he wanted to get done versus some of those crazy people, like, it's like, I always think, Omarosa is like, why did he ever do that?
Right,
No more Omarosa types, that,
right. Susie Wiles is not letting Omarosa or Scaramucci or whatever his name was, any of those clowns in the door.
Yeah, so I think it was a good thing overall, to do that, and it was a good ceremony. I mean, it's good to see. I mean, Vance, having a wife of, I guess, Indian descent, right?
Right.
So you have that, and and Melania was just like, talk about this picture perfect person out there. I mean, I couldn't see her eyes with that
She
hat
looked
on.
terrific. I mean,
Yeah,
she
she looked
did it
terrific.
right
We were
because
commenting.
like the cameras are like they're trying to catch her every facial expression. So you say, "Oh,
Yeah.
she secretly hates Trump." Here's proof, right? And so, like, you're not seeing those facial expressions, bro.
I think it was
It was great.
upsetting.
But I'll also say another thing about that thing. So go back and watch when Vance got sworn in, and the way that she is looking at him, right? The wife. And there's a lot of, like, the left, they crap on the family values and marriage and all this kind of stuff. A lot of guys had to be watching that and saying, I wish somebody'd look at me like that.
Yeah, I mean, probably so. I mean, it is different. It's not scripted or anything like this. It's genuine love for each other,
General, yeah,
admiration. You know, I'm
proud,
not sure the kids knew what was exactly going on, comprehend the
Well,
whole thing.
right, and she's wrangling all those kids, but watch
Yeah,
her look at him. It's extraordinary.
yeah,
You're like, you can see why people who don't have that miss it, are
yeah,
jealous,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
can
No,
ruin your life.
I agree. I agree with that. Yeah. One of the comments that was made, which I agree with, was the little table I was sitting with at this stained glass pub, was that, when Trump came up and he was going to kiss Melania, was kind of like an air kiss, and we were all thinking, like, yeah, she doesn't want him to even remotely mess up her makeup.
Right,
She was,
right, and she
she was
couldn't get
so
under that
perfect.
breath. He was like,
She was so perfect.
it was pretty funny. Yeah,
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I do love having Melania back in the White House, because this wonderfully elegant woman,
yeah.
and everything like that.
Who
It's just,
does it right? Like,
yeah,
seeks to be out of the spotlight, right?
right.
But I think this time it'll be a little bit different. I think she's kind of made her peace with the spotlight, and I think that she's tired of watching people crap on her family. And I
Yeah,
think she's going to be a lot more, uh, coming to their defense. They were saying on one of the things that's like she's really, like, brushed up on world affairs and tried to, like, be a active partner and with him, in a way that she wasn't really the first time.
yeah. I think there's, I don't know that they knew exactly what to expect the first time around. There was a lot of learning that had to go on. They had their 4 years. They could then watch the Biden 4 years, and I think they've come in here with a lot of specific goals, with an agenda that's very strong, and it's Trump 2.0, in a sense, is going to be very, very different than the first Trump administration,
Sure is.
by a
You can already
long.
see that.
Yeah, we can see that just in a couple of days. So it's an amazing turnaround. The inaugural speech was interesting because, as I wrote down here, I, I was looking around, and New York Times, Trump, paints a grim picture of the United States. The next morning, Wall Street Journal is what did they say it was? Full of aspiration and optimism. Now they didn't, the journal itself didn't didn't give him all plaudits, but they said the things that he pulled together in general, it was a far better speech than he gave 8 years ago, and there was a lot of optimistic things, and there's some probably campaigny type of things in there. He took some digs at Biden and Harris, and which he can do that. He's the president of the United States. Go ahead and do
And
that.
they took digs at him. Klobuchar just leveled him during her speech. So
Yeah. So I mean, these are things that are going to happen, and I think I thought the speech overall was a pretty good speech, and he kept it within a reasonable time limit.
yeah,
I
I was
thought
worried about that. I was worried he was gonna, because it looked like he was getting ready to give a rally speech, and he had another hour and a half in him. And I'm like, it's not the place for that, right? As much as that all that needs to be said, this is not the place. And then then he said something, and I'm like, okay, he's cutting it off, and he did. It was not, he didn't cut it off quick, but he cut it off.
And I think maybe part of this is that he was a little more disciplined, knowing that there's somewhat of a schedule going on that day.
Right.
They have a lunch. He's gonna go and sit down at some point and start with a few executive orders and things like that. There's some things on the agenda. There's the balls that night. So if he goes on too long, the whole schedule gets just torn.
He starts being late to everything.
Yeah, so that kind of messes everything up. So I thought he was extremely disciplined in that regard too, and I was happy because I'm thinking like, okay, how long am I going to be here? I don't know, but I'm like, oh look, it's done, it's over. We're ready to go, and so yeah, I thought overall for an indoor inauguration, given the limitations, I thought it went pretty darn well overall for Trump, and so good for him. Uh, Trump's actions since he took office. Let's talk about some of it. So we had TikTok that was effectively, went dark on Sunday, I guess it was, and then because Trump said that he was, he wanted it back, or he was going to protect, where he gave them a 75-day period as to whether it's questionable as to whether or not, based on the law that Congress passed, that whether or not he can do what he did. But in the meantime, he's done it, and and it's left up to, I guess, Apple and Google have not put that back. You can't download it from their app stores, but if you already have it on your phone, you can go ahead and use it. I'm not a TikTok user.
I'm not either.
I found there are a lot of people I know that are not TikTok users. Surprisingly high number.
Yeah, but there's a high number that do use it.
Right. There are a high number that do, and a high number that count on that for income. That is their thing. TikTok influencers and whatnot. I don't know. I mean, this is, Supreme Court had, basically, ruled in favor of the Biden administration on closing it down, in essence, unless they sold to an American company. I'm definitely not in favor of any Chinese apps that may be gathering personal information on its users. But I don't know to what extent it is. I mean, since I don't use it, I don't know. So I'm out of whatever the danger zone is. It doesn't seem that, based on what is it, 170 million users or whatever it is, that most people really care about that aspect of things. I don't know. I mean, is TikTok a national security threat? I mean, Donald Trump his viewpoint on this is different now than it was before. He's kind of more embraced it now than he was before. What's going on here?
It's because he posted a video, or like over the course of the campaign, he had 24 billion views on TikTok. When he found that out, it's sort of like, oh, okay. Me on the screen. Okay, so he yes, it's still on. You can't buy it new, or you can't get it new. But if you have it, you can keep it for now. They're looking for a buyer. I guess the guy O'Leary, who's on one of those,
The Shark Tank guy.
yeah, one of those shows, is talking about putting together a group to do it. He's trying to get some Canadians involved. I don't know if that makes it any better than the Chinese these days. Not a whole lot, right?
I think O'Leary is Canadian, though, right?
Yeah, he is Canadian. The Musk was talking about, what is it? Musk says what he always says. Well, how much is it? Because if you're him, you just need to know the number, right? So I don't know. I think there's enough people out there that if someone wants it done, Trump wants it done, and can probably find somebody to do it, right? But that's kind of thing. It's like just the difference in them, right? Trump is looking for a way to solve this problem. Biden just said, "We'll just make a rule, make it go away," right? No imagination, no consideration of any alternatives. Just it could be a danger, make it go away. So it is, they do get all your data. They do get, they can privately view all your data. But I'm to the point now, and I am getting to be pretty close to a First Amendment absolutist. I really almost never hear a good excuse anymore for not allowing something to be published, right? I don't object to it, right? The guy Ulbricht, Trump let him out today or yesterday. Yeah. So his crime was he was advertising, on social media, selling drugs, selling dope, right? So, should he be able to do that? I mean, I don't know. You promote a crime there, but the argument to me that like you can't say it, right? You can go bust him for selling drugs, but he can't say, "Oh, there's drugs available." I don't know. I'm not really convinced by the arguments against it. I've never been convinced by the arguments against TikTok. Yeah, it's a security problem, but you're on the internet and I'm on the internet all the time. You can find out whatever you want to find out about me. I can find out whatever I want to find out about you without a lot of trouble, right? All kids are going to be like this, right? Because all kids have these phones and they're in the phones all day, and they've given away every bit of ID information they will ever have, right? And continue to give it away repeatedly to whoever asks them to sign up for whatever, however many times every day, right? And they don't care. So China is over there with a just ton of data on Americans already, right? Identifying data, personal data, facial recognition data. They've got it, right? If they don't got it, they can get it, okay? So what exactly is we're preventing here? You want to say, military people can't have it on their phone. Okay, I got that. They're government issue phones. Government issue phones shouldn't have it, right? Those are for work. You shouldn't be looking at TikTok on your work, unless you can show your job, has to do with TikTok or watching TikTok or whatever. So, I get all that, right, in the name of productivity. But it's like the lobbyist told me for TikTok, he's like, okay, if it's a waste of time for people at work, then, Facebook's a waste of time for people at work too, and Twitter and all the rest. So, why just us? So, which is, that's a compelling argument too. So I think where we're going on this is someone buying it and it becoming acceptably owned, although like, how I'm, then I'm left with the question of, all right, how do we go about getting back to a point where downloading TikTok to your phone does not give the Chinese access to all this data, right? What do? You're going to have to just take the whole thing down, rewire it, and bring it back up, right? And I mean, I'm sure those aren't the right terms, but you would have to pretty much restart that from scratch, right? To achieve that outcome, right? When you think. So I don't know. I think it's we're kind of chasing our tails, but I think Trump is coming up with something that, at least it works. At least, get it out of, if Chinese ownership is what makes everybody nervous about it, then okay, we'll find another owner.
Right. I think when Trump was in office, I mean, he was trying to get Larry Ellison and maybe Bill Gates, some of those to to buy. You know, I mean, TikTok wasn't interested in selling. The Chinese government didn't want it to be sold off, I think. Uh, but it's like, to me, with all these things, it's a little bit too late to be
Yeah,
talking
horse is
about
out
this,
of the
right?
barn, man.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's how many years have we been, we've been around, uh, and how many years before it took for complaints about Google, Facebook, Twitter, all everything else you can name, YouTube, whatever, about the information that they're gathering. I mean, even places when you shop online and stuff like that. And like, well, guess what? The time to be concerned about that is when they start or before they start, not
Yeah,
once they've already had a few years of gathering data. Because once that happens, that's it. You're already too late. You're already well
right.
behind. Um, and people who complain, how many times have we seen people talk about, I don't give permission to Facebook to gather blah 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 blah. They keep cutting and pasting these goofy
Yeah,
things. Like, look,
yeah.
that doesn't hold water. It's not going to do
Hey,
anything.
Facebook couldn't care less what you give it
Right.
permission
And
to
you
do.
and you and you already had an implicit contract, as far as I'm concerned, that when you decided that you wanted to join Facebook, Twitter, et al., that you basically agreed that you would turn over whatever you had, whatever your activity would be something that they could data mine in return for the fact that you weren't
Yeah,
going to have to pay anything for it. You
yeah.
got
Like that Richard Epstein says, you are the product.
Right, right. I mean, Facebook and these guys, they would be nothing without us, without the users. I mean, you know,
Right.
us streaming would, with if they didn't have people streaming videos, if they didn't have people making comments and posts and doing all these things, they would. Then who they're going to sell the ads to? We are the market, we are the product, we're the people who buy things, et cetera, et cetera. So they have a model that's building things. Yeah, I'm sorry for whoever is out there complaining about all this all this privacy stuff, but you're already too late. And so TikTok, yeah, what will it take to TikTok? Um, maybe they'd have to come up with a new algorithm that would just do something that would still be as effective, but wouldn't feed data to the Chinese. I don't know. I'm not the computer programming
Would
specialist.
you really believe that that got implemented if they said they implemented it?
Right. And what happened, when these people when people were when people were users were worried about getting shut out of their TikTok accounts, they then switched to another Chinese app called Red Note, I think it's called, which was really based on set up for the Chinese market. So so it shows that the flood of people that downloaded this other app, they were not concerned about security.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll get some buyers for it. Uh, maybe there'll be some court challenges in the meantime as to what Trump has done by allowing TikTok to continue. Though TikTok made that decision based on what Trump said to go ahead and basically make it available again, at least to the current users, so that you know I don't know if anybody will ever be charged under this. If they violated any of these laws, would anybody really take them to court? Because then I think that's just a whole other mess that they're going
Right.
to want to find themselves into. And I don't know that they really want to get into that.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, where are we drawing the line on free speech, in terms of where what is free speech now, at this point in time? The world has changed. Things have evolved. I don't think that I object to as many things as I would have 10 years ago as today because of the changes and things. And I think that's where Trump and his allies also, that they came in and they kind of helped change the landscape a little bit themselves, but we are looking at a completely different thing. Anybody in the media, anybody out there looking at saying, oh, the administration should be doing this because this is how it's been done and all these kind of things. Sorry, this is not that anymore.
Yeah.
We're all in a different era, and definitely under Trump 2.0, we are in a completely different area.
Right. And he is in a unique position to try things because he can't run again.
Right. Right. And the only risk, if you want to call it that, is just that, um, what if he become the policies become somewhat unpopular, is that he damages the chances of J.D. Vance taking over for him. But we're looking at a potentially long runway of
Yeah.
kind of MAGA policies that potentially not 4 years, but maybe 12 years if
Yeah.
everything goes right. So that's kind of where we are. I'm sure that Vance will have some input. They probably talk a lot about, they're not looking at just 4 years. I'm sure they're looking at the future to make sure that whatever they put in place is something that will still be palatable in 4 years, so that they can maintain this and then keep that running down the line. So this will be a very interesting time that we're in. But I think we can already see the liberals' heads kind of exploding on the second Trump administration,
Right.
as we go through there. So he's had some executive orders. He's been very, very busy. Presidents do this all the time in terms of undoing the policies of their predecessor as much as they can. Biden did try to Trump-proof as much as possible. There'll probably be court challenges for some of these things along the way. Uh, I have to admit, I was a little bit surprised at where Trump is basically saying that schools and churches are not safe from immigration, and so in essence they're not necessary sanctuaries anymore. We're not talking about going in guns blazing and just dragging kids out there, but I have had a problem of illegals in places like, well, the churches, we're a sanctuary, you can't come here and do anything. It's like, so how long we have to wait for these illegals to sit in your church, when they shouldn't be in this country to begin with? I'm glad that Remain in Mexico is back.
That's
Though I
a
heard
that's
Republic.
a competing rights one. That's a really tough one. I
Right,
want the people who legitimately feel like they're being persecuted to have places they can go for shelter. Right? That we're all for that. So, but then you say, okay, you're hoarding people who don't have a case to be here, right? So you go from the political prisoner to the thug who's trying to avoid accountability very quickly, and it's hard to sort it out, and certainly the church person can't be asked to sort it out, and the mob outside the church is not going to sort it out. So it's a dangerous thing, and what the country wants right now, though, and this is one of the things that's kind of come out undeniably on this, is they want an end to racism. They want an end to the DEI and all that kind of stuff. All that stuff Trump does has gotten huge applause. They want real border closure, real asylum reform, right? Where you wait outside unless you have a legit case, which almost none of them do, right? We're not playing these games anymore where you hang out for 3 years, then we don't really know where you are. And they want, if you watch Trump's speech, the thing that got the loudest applause was when he said, new government policy, men are men and women are women, right? And we're going to have two, and you're whatever you were at birth, and we're not considered anything else. And so, and there's like a whole set of guidance coming out from, they're already working on it from the Attorney General and the Secretary of Education on what it means to comply with that law, and what it means to comply with the gender law and the anti set-asides, right? Scholarship set-asides and so forth. So educational preferences based on race. So all that's going out the window. I mean, we're really doing it. I was trying to think earlier this day, when did Sandra Day O'Connor say 25 years from now we won't need affirmative action, right? It's been a lot more than 25 years. Well, it's not going to, by the time 2026 rolls around, there won't be any more affirmative action. There won't be any more DEI anywhere in government.
Yeah, I mean, I love how the boldness of the, if you're working on DEI in government, you're kind of on, what
It's
is
your
that?
last day. You
Yeah,
work today, and then you're on you're suspended or you're suspended with pay or whatever until they figure
They're,
out which
they're,
one.
they're on some kind of paid leave or something like
You
that,
paid
right?
leave, yeah.
Yeah. So
They're not suspended. They didn't do anything
yeah,
wrong. I mean,
yeah,
they did their jobs, but
yeah.
they're
It's not their fault. That was their job. But Trump is saying no more. We're not fostering any more regulations and rules on these policies. So that yeah, what happens to those people, whether or not they find another job in government, will be a whole nother question. But it's kind of refreshing to see what that's happened. I'm curious about your thoughts on Remain in Mexico because you know with that policy back in place, does this put more pressure on Mexico? Will they try to staunch the influx of immigrants, into Mexico, so they don't wind up with this overwhelming number of people that can't go anywhere until they can get a hearing in the U.S., rather than having a more free-flowing nature where they can come through a little faster? Uh, what do you?
she said a couple of things on that. One is that they want to improve the facilities you got to wait in, right? And give where they put the people while they're waiting for what they're waiting on, and they take action at their southern border, right? Which is what did during the first Trump administration. They guarded their own border. Trump made a deal with the Golden Triangle countries, Guatemala, Panama, El Salvador. What does it take to get you to send fewer people? And they said this, and they made it happen. So Trump made deals with them, and Biden rejected all that on day one and appointed Harris, oddly, to go clean it up, and nothing ever happened. So we're back to I suspect there'll be some deal made with those people again, but I also suspect that we really mean it this time on turning away immigrants and closing the border.
Yeah, I mean, so I heard a report from ABC, a report, about this Remain in Mexico policy this morning, and a lot of the focus was on the people that were there at the border. One, they didn't know any. It's hard for them to be in Mexico because they didn't know anybody, and two, the cartels have come in and conditions are bad. And I'm like, look, I tried to be a compassionate person, but um, you knew that there was going to be a risk by leaving your country for whatever reason and getting to Mexico. It's like, is this America's problem that you're there? No, I mean this is
Right.
squarely on you. You've made the decision to try to come to the United States, and I think someone hopefully get in without having to go through all the process that a lot of other people go through. And now, you have you still have a sympathetic media, which is like, oh, these poor people. Well, yeah, to some extent, but this is not really our problem. This is not like
Right.
some disaster occurred within Mexico itself. And these are Mexican citizens. These are people from a bunch of other countries that have chosen to try to gain entry to the United States. That's a whole different matter to me.
Yeah, my friend Ian Murray says, welfare, democracy, immigration, pick any two. You can't have all three. North of Houston, that's right. There's that colony in Texas, the colony. Yeah, that's right. It's like 70,000 people. They've got this piece of land in Texas, just north of Houston, and they have all these people living there, and basically it's pretty close to sovereign territory.
Is Kristen another one of your friends?
This is my cousin.
Okay.
Remember, almost everybody is my cousin.
Yeah, I just want to say. I'm like, there's got to be a relationship.
If in doubt. Kristen's actually done a lot of work with the Tell the Truth. Yeah, that's it. That's what it's called.
Yeah, I had until now. I had no idea. I was like, that's crazy though. 70,000. That's I mean, I'm just as I reread it, they have their own police, helicopter, exotic animals, and very little governance. Is like,
yeah,
what the heck?
That's right. And then 70,000 people. They don't go to school, so their kids aren't learning anything. It's quite a mess.
So,
Yeah.
so this just brings up a question. I'm just out of my total ignorance in terms of is Governor Abbott trying to do anything about that, or is there just tug of war between him and Houston mayor or something?
Well, it's out. It's in Harris County. Correct me, Kristen, if I get this wrong, but it's outside of the city of Houston. And he has tried to do stuff about it, but he hasn't. They haven't been able. I mean, it's you're down and you're going to send a National Guard in there against 70,000 people. It's a tough question.
All right. So then the other part of it said, how did we get 70,000 people in there?
Well, I mean, that's not hard in Houston, at all. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I'm glad that Chris said Glenn back to the story in this, but Trump needs to know more about this. I mean, he needs to make this.
Yeah.
He needs to
Liberty
make this.
County. Okay.
Yeah,
So
he needs to make this a bigger deal, because this is just a microcosm to me of what can happen here, and the results of terrible immigration policy that we've had for the last 4 years, right?
right.
I mean, until this very minute, I had not heard about this community, and this is ridiculous that we have that going on in our country. This is just a shameful state of affairs. I'm sad to say that this is happening in the United States of America.
Yeah, it's like no one made Biden administration. No one was making any effort to stop it.
So we definitely need to make America great again.
Make America great again.
Well, thanks for that information, Kristen. That was really good. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we know that with Homan in there, the things that he's going to do, that they're ready to roll. I mean, this administration is ready to strike.
Yeah, I think they deported 500 people yesterday.
Yeah, and what? Just let me ask you this too. What about this typical kind of, I'll call it a canard at this point. It's just like, well, with the schools, with the illegals in the schools, and some of the other things that people are going to keep their kids home. They're going to be afraid to go out because they're afraid of being deported. What are your thoughts on that? I mean,
well, if you're a drug dealer, you cannot invite people into your house all that often, right? It's just sort of the inconvenience of doing things illegal, So, I mean, I'll say this though, you get some really human stories out of this. Like a few years ago, one of my coaching friends told me he had a girl who was a good player here in Northern Virginia, and they lost her because her father was illegal, and he was worried that she was starting to get her name in the paper for playing good basketball, and he was worried that it would lead to him getting deported. So, the kids do suffer for this, right? But as I've always said, all these things, don't take your kid criming, right? You go criming. Don't take your kid, because they're going to take your kid from you because you're out criming with your kid, right? I mean, that's how we tell which parents we got to take the kids from. It's the ones that are out criming with their kids. So, you do things legally, you don't have any of these problems. This is all caused by the parent doing something illegal.
So what about birthright citizenship?
That's a complicated one, isn't it? My personal opinion is I've never really thought there's a whole ton of people who come here for the express purpose of having a baby that will be an American citizen that will then cloud their, possibility of getting sent back or whatever. But as Homan says, if you get arrested, we always separate. You get arrested for drunk driving, got your kids in the car. Guess what? They separate that family. They take the drunk driver to jail, but not all the other people. They don't care for them, right? That's not the job of the police, right? It's your job not to be driving around drunk with your family in the car. So it's that kind of thing. So, I guess, but they do. I don't know. But that's the thing about it. So, we're talking about bringing people over the border. Yes, the answer is not zero. But I don't know. I've never really understood why that was a big hill to die on. Just me.
Yeah, and I think it's going to see it's already going to see a number of court challenges, and so that'll get kind of tied up a little bit about that.
Yeah,
but I think it does. I guess it goes back to things that Trump has promised on the campaign trail about trying to end these things. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I don't know what the numbers are. I didn't look for what the numbers are. I don't know if anybody who's tracking the numbers of illegals that are coming in specifically to have a baby, so that they have the anchor baby kind of a thing. That we had. Uh, but I would think that in general, if it was huge, it would be a bigger story than it is. But um,
Yeah,
all right.
I don't think that. I also think that the Dreamers. We're talking about what 800,000, 900,000 people. Who cares, right? They're already here. If they're
Yeah, I mean,
criminals, send them back. But if they're behaving, why are we
well,
worried?
in the end, you're not going to get everybody out. That's illegal. Okay, you can't.
Right. So
You're not going to.
start at the top. Get the
You're not.
gang
You're not.
members, the
Right.
murderers, the drug dealers. Right. Work your way down to the people who are just slime balls.
Yeah, you're not. You're not going to zero. But if you can stop the inflow and then
Right.
manage to start reducing the number of illegal immigrants that are in this country that have spread around the country while they were awaiting their hearings, and then just took off,
Right.
never to be found again.
I mean, I don't blame them. If you
Yeah,
think about it, like what they're not looked for.
right.
So you're only found if you again screw up, right? If you
Right.
later on down the line screw up, okay? Because otherwise they're not looking for you, and just keep running, right? Because it's not a big pursuit, and you have 3 years to find your way to wherever, someplace they can't find you, and forget it. I mean, you can put your name on stuff, you can get paid, you don't even have to worry about that.
Yeah, look, the system is so filled with kind of loopholes, or just so creaky that I don't blame them either for just like, okay, I've got a hearing date or whatever, but I'm not hanging around because I figure my chances are 50-50 at best, or whatever they may be.
Your chances are 1 in 35 or 40.
Yeah.
It's
I,
like
I,
2%.
but and I might as well just go ahead and take off for Michigan or wherever, Colorado, and create a new life. I can get documents if I need documents,
Right.
and create a life. And so, yeah, it's not something I like to see, but I know it's out there, and happening. But yeah, we have to start at the border and control that.
Yeah, that's right. That's basically what I'm
Right. I
saying.
mean, I think that's what it is go for the common sense part
Yeah, I
first.
also think that Trump, he promises this stuff, to the red meat audience and whatnot. He's probably not going to win on the birthright citizenship.
Right.
They're going to sue him. And 14th A says, if you're born here, you're a citizen. You could argue against that. I've seen some lawyers saying it's not necessarily, just positive. That does not necessarily close the book on this case. But why fight that when there's so much more to be done in this that they really can't fight you over?
Yeah, and that, in a lot of ways too, with a lot of people who get to be politicians, it's like, okay, we tried, right?
Yeah. Hey, we were
threw,
out there and the court said no. Sorry.
yeah,
But we
threw it
did
out.
these other 9 things, our list, a top 10 list of things to do. 9 of them we knocked out, and 1 of them the Democrats stopped us in court. That's a
Yeah.
fine record. You did great.
Yeah, and I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, this may get tied up. It may lose. It probably would lose, but it's okay because sometimes I think this is also can be part of a misdirection play. Let
Yeah.
the liberals focus on this. They get so outraged on this, they don't see what Trump is doing on other things, right? In the meantime, those other 9 things are getting done, and the next thing they know is like, what just happened to us? It's like,
Right.
you spent all your time fighting this one thing. You got all worked up about birthright citizenship, and in the meantime, Trump got all these other policies, passed, and enacted and whatever, taken care of. And so,
Yeah. And he's going to give them DACA, but he's going to get something for it.
right.
Right.
Yeah,
They'll get DACA. It's going to happen. Those
right.
people, they got nothing to worry about. But
Yeah, no, I mean, I
Trump's
think
going to get paid for it.
right. Right. You give them something, and you take 3 or 4 or 5 other things in return. And if you can get a ratio where you're giving them something relatively small, but then you're getting 4 or 5 other things done that would have been harder to do otherwise, that's a win.
Yeah, that's a win. His supporters will say he caved, but I mean, that's how this thing gets done. Trump understands how to make deals.
Yeah.
He literally wrote the book.
Yeah. All right. So we'll finish off with pardons. So we had a couple of different sets of pardons here. Before Biden left office, he pardoned a bunch of, what was it, low level drug offenders or something or other. And then some preemptively his family and members of the J6 committee, like Liz Cheney and Millie
and staff,
and
not just
staff.
Yeah.
And once again, the family thing is it's like the Hunter Biden thing, right? It goes back to it goes back to January 1, 2014 or whatever. I mean, it had even the liberals. Some liberals are probably were scratching their heads a little bit about it. The J6 pardons were pretty broad. I mean, he pardoned virtually everybody, and he commuted the sentences of several others, and which have got the liberals and some others in a tizzy. But I thought it was interesting that Tim Kaine, when questioned about it, asked about it, he said, well, he says, I really can't say much, or can't say much, when Joe Biden pardons his family. So,
Right.
Biden set this up in a lot of ways. He gave Trump a runway to go ahead and make other pardons because of the pardons he had. Plus, he pardoned Leonard Peltier, right? Who had killed
Right.
FBI agents.
Right.
Okay, so it's like, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not trying to defend, pardoning or commuting the sentence of people who were involved in assaulting cops, but Biden basically opened the door,
Right.
and
You got
therefore
no moral ground to stand on that one
right.
at
So yeah,
all.
so while I'm not necessarily crazy about all the pardons and commutations, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying here,
Plus, at
right?
the very least, that's right.
Yeah.
At the very least, all the J6 defendants. People say, well, you should separate out, the guys who hit a cop or whatever. But all of them were hauled to court in an unfair way, charged unfairly, overcharged unfairly, hauled before DC juries where there was no chance of an acquittal, and held without food and isolation and all this in the DC jail. And then, they pardon these people, and the mayor of DC doesn't want to let them out, right? They had to go in, the marshals had to go in there and extract the people from the DC jail. I mean, that's ridiculous, and I'll tell you what, they're messing around in DC. They keep trying to put a thumb in Trump's eye about every little thing they can think of. And, you've got enough votes in Congress now to end home rule. Right,
Yeah.
they better be very careful. It would pass the House, and it might well pass the Senate.
As we close here, one thing I didn't know about this was that the people who are supporting these J6 people, they have been having basically a demonstration every night for 900 nights,
Yeah,
and they talk with them, on speakerphone or whatever, and so I thought, wow, that's pretty incredible. I mean, that is quite a support level to have for this.
yeah.
And and of course at the end, they're all like, we thank Donald Trump for this. So yeah, I mean, you kind of wonder sometimes about pardons, but just as I had said, and Bob kind of reiterated, the cover, it was given, by Biden. Biden's pardons basically opened up the door and said, okay,
Right.
now
The other thing is, if you look at the like the summer of 2020 riots, okay, all those people are out, right?
yeah,
And they like in Portland, they locked the cops in the Hatfield building, the federal office building, courthouse in downtown Portland. They locked them in the building, right? And chained all the doors of the building shut. And then they set the building on fire. Okay, trapping the cops in there and trying to kill them. The cops got out. They didn't die. But, how are those, you're attempting to murder dozens of cops and other federal employees. All those people are out of jail, but the people who went to this protest and, carried a flag around need to be still in jail? I don't think so, right? I just think like similarly situated defendants said it was time to just unearth this whole thing. And also, if you piecemeal it, right? If you decide, okay, we didn't pardon these guys at first, but now we decided that they also deserve a pardon that keeps trickling out. That's a bigger problem politically than this. This is like, we got to explain this one time, and a week from now, no one will be thinking about it.
All right, we're kind of out of time, so I'm just going to wrap this up, as we say. So thanks everyone for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed it. Please stay safe and well as always. Remember, we live in the greatest country in the world. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. And God bless America. And I think we'll be back on schedule at our normal time next week. So watch for us again. Thanks a lot.